this race in isolation tells me that. Just look at what happened to Manfilter, thinking, well, they had done all the bolts up seemingly on the wheels and still one fell off.
Just looking at the sector times, Johnny, 2:21.9 in sector 3 for our leader, 2:25.2 for second, 2:25.7. So it's around about 21:22. Well, not if you're Yelmer Berman. He's just done an 18.5 in the middle sector. So he's pushing. Now, do we read anything from that? He did a 9.50 last time around. That's, 8-9 seconds quicker than anybody else on the circuit. Does that mean they're particularly worried about fuel? Will he come in? Surely he's going to come in at the end of this lap.
Has to. He has to. I think the only thing he might be trying to do is to catch up with the Manthey car and frighten it, and frighten Makovici into thinking that it's Christodoulou coming up on his tail.
The plan, clutching at straws a little bit, but you never know. In the tricky visibility, very easy to confuse one Mercedes-Benz from another. Heightened senses to look out for the SAP car, I suppose, from Fred Makovici, but Manthey will be keeping him well in tune with the location of his nearest rival.
I reckon he's coming into the Kleiner carousel now, is Fred Makovici.
Under 13 minutes to go now.
So inevitably, when they come through at the completion of this lap, it will be the start of the final lap. And if anybody doesn't have enough fuel to do the final lap, then they just have to dive in at the end of this lap and get what fuel is left.
22.1 seconds the margin at the start of this lap between the two leaders. It's been eked out even more now by Fred Mako, who was 4 seconds quicker than the Mercedes in sector 3.
If the 912 doesn't stop and the Mercedes number 4 does, then the Mercedes has got no worries, but Fred possibly has. I don't see. I think they all have to stop.
It's absolutely. It is actually now basically capitulation from all. They've settled into their positions, and although they're all trying desperately hard, there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do that's clever. There's no strategic you can play. You've just got to be fast and do the job properly.
Leader is in the pit lane. There is one other card, of course. There's 11 minutes and 24 seconds to go. 11 minutes and 24 seconds before the checkered flag comes out. If Christodoulou goes through and slows down, can he be the first man to the line without this car, the 912 car, catching him? If he does a slow last lap.
Christodoulou's in. So
is he?
No. But it was an interesting theory for a few seconds. I just don't think, even at the reduced pace, they would have been able to eke out an extra lap somehow. So these are timed stops, remember, minimum pit stop times, and Black Falcon will be having their cars very close to one another indeed, the 4 and the 5.
Can't make a mistake on the time here, Johnny.
You can't.
53 seconds should be the time for the 912 car.
He's out. Be gone. He's out.
He was 7 seconds over, and the Black Falcon car number 4, Adam Christodoulou, will be out in 4. He's got another 10 seconds to wait.
Third and 4th are in as well, by the way, and at a 15th call at 16 seconds, so 8 seconds lost by the Aston on both of the last 2 laps in its chase for a podium position. Make no mistakes here on the 4, guys, but you can't afford to leave it short here. They've put in 28.5 litres.
And that stop for Christodoulou is comfortably longer than it needed to have been. So, again, I think Black Falcon have accepted the fact that Manthey's beaten them. They'd rather get to this flag securely, safely. I mean, Adam's going to give it everything he's got on this final lap.
And it is the final lap, Paul, because we're now under or on 9.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And in these conditions, 9.5 minutes for a lap would be extraordinary.
Oh, Fred left the pit lane with a lap time in hand, but he can easily elongate it to be about 20 seconds longer than necessary and force the checkered flag as he comes out of Tiergarten.
I don't think it matters, because I don't think Christodoulou can reach the line before the checkered flag goes out. So even if the Porsche goes round and doesn't get the checkered flag, all that'll happen is he'll get one more lap, he'll do it, and he'll finish the lap up on the field.
You know, out laps have usually been around about 11 minutes and over 11 minutes. So
well, that's because it includes part of the pit stop.
Yes.
That's
so
from
what we're
pit
going to
in.
see, and he had about, when he came out, he had right on about 10 minutes and 15 seconds.
It was about 10 and a half minutes,
yeah.
and I'm just looking at Mako's last lap, and it was 10 minutes pretty much on. So he's going to have to lose about 30 seconds here. It's close, though.
Well, he doesn't, because he can go through and do another lap.
He could do another lap.
Because he's got fuel on board now. That's not
true.
the worry. So do they now want to win with a lap on the field? That's the question.
Yeah.
And how hard do you tell Mako to push to make that happen? It's a great story. We came in early, we had a puncture, we've won. Is it a better story that we've won and no one else was on the lead lap?
Yeah,
we have
obviously.
dominated.
Yeah, absolutely. And those that witnessed every single bit of the race will know they didn't dominate, but it looks great on a press release, doesn't it? Yeah, I've done that a few times as well. The painting on the asphalt.
BMW Roundel.
Yes.
Which I thought was a car
on the
park.
Hatson back, and the car going wide off it. I keep thinking that Fred's going to hit a car there, but it's just paint.
Olaf Manthey, Dr. Frank Stefan Walliser, the curly-haired, bespectacled head of the Porsche GT programme. The decisive moment of the race what, about an hour ago now? A bit of bumping and barging at turn 2 at the Yokohama S's, and the Porsche went through into the lead. A lead that Johnny's not relinquished since then. Adam Christodoulou trying to hold on the lead by driving off the track and heading straight to the apex.
Yeah, and they've made contact since this incident as well, because through traffic the Mercedes nerfed the back of the 912 after Adam Christodoulou caught Fred Mako in slower moving saloon cars. But everything that Adam has thrown Fred, he's been able to react, and more specifically the Porsche has been able to react, because it's had the single lap pace and indeed the pace across the stint to just eke this gap out.
Go on, Paul.
Of course, the other thing which the 912 car has had, as well as that puncture and coming through the back door of the pit lane, it's also soaked up a 3-minute and 30-second penalty in the pit lane. So it is, in effect, a very dominant victory for the car, although the outcome was far, far, far from certain earlier on.
I think Christodoulou has slipped behind the battle for third. I'll check that at the next point, the next checkpoint, but I'm pretty certain that he's now got the battle for third. They've unlapped themselves with those last stops. As Paul said, the AMG Team Black Falcon number 4 car was much longer than it needed to be.
No, you're absolutely right. The number 4 car's pit stop was actually 1 minute 12, and he could have got away with a 1 minute dead. So an extra 10 seconds whistled away in the pit lane for no good reason other than to put it behind that battle for third place.
Right.
Jelmer Berman now heading towards Callenhard, and Aston Martin probably, well, what's the difference at the start of the lap? 15 seconds, about the same as it is, but as you say, the 4 now doing this likely final lap. Possibly not. You don't think
it will be for him. It's his final lap.
Yeah, for the number 4.
The only question is how hard Fred Mako pushes, and the answer is not that hard.
No.
Fred Mako can do another lap in terms of fuel, so that the question for me is whether Porsche want to merely beat the opposition, or on paper at least, as far as the results are concerned, completely annihilate them and wipe the floor with them by being the only car in the lead lap.
2:35 that time for Fred Makovici through sector 3. Compare that to a 2:28 for Jelmer Berman.
Who must be close to unlapping himself, Berman.
Yeah, probably. Check on the tracker in a moment, but 7 seconds the deficit there compared to Fred Makovici and a hard-pushing Jelmer Berman. So Berman is now heading out of Bergwerk. And the race leader, Christopher Dooley, still trying to find the 912 car.
There it is, just behind him. He is behind him.
912 and, well, the 5 car displayed at the moment on the tracker.
Maybe not.
Just behind.
Yeah, maybe not.
And do you want to get a Black Falcon Mercedes too close there?
No.
You know,
no.
The danger is that the sister car might do something very, very silly indeed. Better to stay ahead of Jelmer Berman, who is well and truly revved up after his stint-long battle with Maxime Martin. Out of the carousel goes Fred Makovici, and he's deliberately losing time through these sectors. 3 minutes and 25 seconds to go before a checkered flag is displayed.
2 minutes and 50 before Fred Mako gets to the line. So he's going to have to slow down quite a bit more not to do a lap. I don't think it matters. I don't think he needs to take that risk. What I don't understand is why Christopher Dooley isn't absolutely hammering along.
They've settled for second, haven't they? And there's not much point in throwing the car off and losing second place. So he's just driving well and truly within himself.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Mako is going to get around and be able to do this extra lap.
I agree.
Christopher Dooley won't have to do an extra lap because the checkered flag will be out by the time he gets there. So it'll be a proper lap of honour for Manthey here, because he'll be able to tour around on his own, and provided he gets to the flag at the end of it. In fact, even if he doesn't get to the flag at the end of it, he'll be fine, because he's completed the most laps in the time of the race.
The other effect of this as well is I think Berman's going to get an extra lap Jelmer Berman's going to get an extra lap as well, which will put him a lap ahead of the Aston Martin, which I don't think now will get another lap. It's going to be touch and go. It's really going to be touch and go as to whether the Aston gets to the line before the checkered flag comes out. But I think Berman is close enough that if he keeps his pace, he will, and they will then finish on the same lap as the number 4 car.
Yeah. Christopher Dooley stuck in quite a bit of traffic now at Brunchen, and blue flags frantically being waved by the semi-sheltered marshals, and there is a bit of a roof there, but I'm not sure it prevents the sideways rain that we've had plenty of.
More than a golf clap for the marshals, the recovery operators, track services. Any 24-hour race is hard. Any race on the Nürburgring, harder still. This one, well, weather-wise, we've boiled them, we've frozen them, and we've soaked the marshals this weekend. Thank you, every one of them, and also to everyone here at the Aston Martin Lounge who have helped us out and allowed us to make our 12th broadcast from the ADAC Zurich 24 hours of 2018. How close is the leader, Johnny? Bring him home, Johnny.
It takes just under a minute to do the Dottinger Her, and I saw Fred go through Sector 4 with about 1:05 on, so there is an option just to rein things back on the Dottinger Her. 35 seconds to go, and some of the other SP9 cars further down the order have been completing this final sector in over a minute. He's got traffic to deal with. I also spotted an injured Audi working its way into Tiergarten, and I just wonder, there's the Audi with a headlight missing and slotting through. Berman goes by.
So Berman's going to get another lap, so he's unlapped himself from the leader and will get another lap. Now, what happens here? I think they're both going to go through.
Nah, he's waiting for the checkered flag. It's Fred Makovici, and how's the timing going to be? He's going to crawl across the line to make sure he gets the race finish here.
Did Berman get through?
And for the first time, Berman got through, but the first time since 2011, it's Porsche that take victory, and the pit wall down at Manthey absolutely erupts. It's just a faint smile on the face of Olaf Manthey, not technically running the team these days, but it's a team that very much still carries his family name, and now the big grin erupts on Olaf's face, and everyone else down at Porsche can start to celebrate.
Christopher Dooley comes through in second. The margin of victory then at the end, 26 seconds. really don't understand why they weren't pushing hard to make them do the other lap.
I think they realised that they were beaten. There are times when all you're going to do when you're going to push is just you're going to make another mistake, and I think they just realised that second was the best they could hope for. Jelmer Berman then in the number 5 Bilstein car is going to get round and finish on the same number of laps therefore as his sister car and also as the race-winning Manthey Porsche. So we've got three cars. Finishing on the lead lap, and the gap first to second at the end of that race of just 26, albeit slightly artificial, seconds.
And it will be a win in SP9LG and 4th overall for Aston Martin Racing in the final outing for the Vantage in its current form as a works car. Maxime Martin has crossed the line, that's confirmed. And so the story that started with the little GT4 car back in 2006 with Rose continues. The bright yellow car as it was then, hence the Yellow Rose of Texas as it was named. It continues with the bright lime green Aston Martin Racing new British Racing Green stripe for the final outing of that model of Vantage. And the next time we're here, we will have the new Vantage GT3, this time next year. I think that's a cracking result from Aston Martin. I do. That's their best result here by a margin.
It was more than they could hope for. It was a superbly executed race. Lots of challenges for them to overcome throughout it. Obviously, with the weather, but everything else. They never had a car that was going to blitz the opposition on pace, as Manthey had. They haven't got the, all due respect to Aston Martin, but they don't have the resources of Black Falcon running the 3 cars effectively. In fact, the 2 works cars and then the additional Black Falcon car. So I think finishing behind the might of Manthey and the bulk and the organisation of Black Falcon to finish 4th. Yes, 1 lap behind, but a superb performance. And I mean, many congratulations to all the drivers as well, because they, each of them, every one of the drivers played their part in it.
Joe Bradley, a thought from you at a race that once again has delivered pretty much everything, whether it was weather, excitement. We'll go through the other class winners in a little while, but I mean, just thinking about what happened at the front of the field.
There's not a race like it, is there? There's not a race that epitomises my adage of a soap opera behind every garage door, is there? I mean, it doesn't matter where you look down this 148 car field, there is a story, and there's a story that will many anecdotes to be taken from just one race. This race has always proved to us to never to be over until it's over, and to kind of create the tension this morning, leaving us 90 minutes of racing.
Yes.
I mean, it's as if whoever wrote the script this year clearly had a hard job, because they had a better last year, they had a better the year before, and how better to better those 2 races than to kind of restage everything and take a restart.
You were going to go home.
I was ready to go home, absolutely, and I still would have, because I thought the conditions were deplorable.
Martin, fortune favoured the brave, and the brave there was as much the ADAC and the race director as any of the drivers that were out there. It looked an odd decision to restart the race. It proved to be absolutely the right one.